Estimating in an agile environment, relative and abstract. What would relative mean? Well, I have some props here that I keep handy. I have two containers here. They both hold liquid. One of these is smaller than the other. You could tell which one is smaller. There's no optical illusion here. This item is clearly smaller than this item in terms of how much volume it can hold. This item would be larger. That's the relative aspect of this. The abstract aspect would be to try to understand how much more bigger is this item. If I were to fill this with liquid and pour it into this container, how many times could I do that before I fill this container? 5, 6, 7, 8 times? We would discuss and come up with an estimate of how much bigger this item is. Now, I can only say this item is bigger because I'm comparing it to this item. If I bring in this item, this one is no longer bigger. Relatively speaking, this is now bigger. I didn't ask how many milliliters. I didn't ask how many ounces. I asked how many times bigger is this item compared to this item. The relative abstract aspect of those types of estimates make it a little more difficult to abuse and misuse. Because if someone says this work item is medium sized, how does that translate into a schedule? How does that translate into hours? Now, be very careful here because some people have done that. They've said, oh, a medium is, and they propose a range of time, 40 to 60 hours, let's say, or 10 to 15 days of effort. Just got to be careful when we start matching those types of estimates into hours and days because you might as well just estimate in hours and days then. There's also this team-based aspect regarding how we estimate. In my first example, when I said I will require 5 days to complete something, but then I asked you about which item is smaller, which is larger. For smaller and larger, it tends to be a little more understandable, a little more reasonable that a group of people could agree one item is bigger than another. So collectively, we can align on that relative size. I like working with things like small, medium, large. We call those t-shirt sizes. The problem with t-shirt sizes, for me at least, is that it's difficult to schedule t-shirt sizes. How many smalls can fit into a sprint? Mediums? How many larges? What if I had a large and two mediums and five smalls? Would that fit? It's a lot more manageable if I had something numeric. And that's where the golden ratio comes in. The Fibonacci sequence, the sequence of numbers you've all heard of. 1 plus 2 equals 3, 2 plus 3 equals 5, 3 plus 5 equals 8, etc. And we'll have a whole separate section just on the Fibonacci sequence to talk about different ways that you could use this. But now by using a numerical reference, we could do some math. For example, if I had this particular work item example as a 5 and this is a 1, and I bring them both into the sprint collectively, we have 6 units of estimated size coming into the sprint. And our plan would indicate we can deliver 6 units of work, and under the covers, we know that that means these two particular items. A lot more to say about this, but I hope this introductory explanation of some of the basic concepts helps to clear up some confusion about why we use t-shirt sizes, why we use Fibonacci sequences when estimating work, and what is the impact on how teams discuss those estimates.